Welcome to Movies That Matter, the podcast about recent films going above and beyond the call of box office returns to boldly explore a social issue affecting people's lives. I'm Nicole Finari.
I'm Stacey Moore.
And with us today is...
Sari Houston.
And this week we're going to overanalyze Get Out. So the plot summary for Get Out. Now that Chris and his girlfriend Rose have reached the meet the parents milestone of dating, she invites him for a weekend getaway upstate with Missy and Dean. At first, Chris reads the family's over-accommodating behavior as nervous attempts to deal with their daughter's interracial relationship. But as the weekend progresses, a series of increasingly disturbing discoveries lead him to a truth that he could never have imagined. All right, Sari, you're the guest. Kick us off. What did you think of Get Out?
Whoa. I was hesitant because I'm not a huge scary horror movie fan. So I think that gave me slight pause. But I think the whole plot and hearing a little bit more about just kind of the rave reviews had me super interested. And so I will have to admit, I brought a friend just for the, peeking over somebody's shoulder or grabbing their hand. Going into it, it certainly played well. The turn of events I thought were super original. Like I think what I had envisioned and where the plot line was going, I had no idea. So that had me kind of baffled. And I still kind of was trying to catch up. I'm like, wait. What's going on? Like, what's happening right now, so to speak? So I certainly really enjoyed it. I thought the nuances that they tapped into throughout the entire movie were incredibly, for me, powerful. Interesting. I would certainly say the reaction, not only for myself, but also from folks in the audience, were spot on. I liked that for me, the person who turned out to be the hero was certainly not the person that I had originally
the
most likely candidate. But yeah, I certainly enjoyed it. And didn't necessarily think I would have.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Stacey?
I'm a huge fan of this movie.
Great.
Although I did go in with positive thinking. But to temper that, I had seen the 100% Rotten Tomatoes rating. And when I think anyone, if you look at a 100% rating, you're kind of skeptical, right? And I was like, oh, okay, 100%. Moonlight didn't get 100%.
Yeah.
But by the opening credits, I was like, 110%. I'm so into this movie already. I was like, let's do this. And it carried through to the end. I thought I just really, really enjoyed it so much. And I think as you do have to be a movie fan to appreciate, which is what Jordan Peele is. He is... even if there were no social messages in this movie, he is a guy who will take a genre and just play with it and show you and use the tropes to get his jokes across, get his messages across. He is first and foremost a movie geek.
Yeah, he's a huge horror movie fan. I heard his interview on the Nerdist podcast before I saw it. So I will actually play the contrarian on this one. So given all the hype and the 100% Rotten Tomatoes, I went in preparing to love it. And I came out like, eh. And actually the people I saw it with were like, well, it was enjoyable. Mm-hmm. But, I just thought the whole second half of the movie completely lost me. I felt like if you've seen The Stepford Wives... you knew what was going to happen. Generally, that was telegraphed far in advance. And I think one of the dangers about horror movies is that the less you can show what the scary thing is, the scarier it is. Once you show it, it's not as scary. So, at one point he's trapped in the basement and the cheesy TV and all the videos. And I was like, this is just not scary anymore. Like, there's nothing, I didn't find that part scary. They kind of lost me when they took, in the pacing where they took the long break where he goes with his girlfriend and he tells her about his mother and all that stuff. And I was like, I'm bored. When's the next scare? Like, when's the next? They lost me on the pacing and they kind of never brought me back. So, I didn't think once you knew what was going on, it lost the creepy, scary factor for me entirely. And it was just sort of gore action movie. So as much as I liked the first half, I just felt let down by the second half. And I thought the friend was ridiculous. He was funny, yes. But TSA don't have cars with sirens. Like, I was just like, this is crazy. Like, this is so unrealistic. It really lost me in the second half.
I would certainly say that the pacing of it was slower, but I will admit that the slower pacing helped me only because if it would have been too much, too fast, I think I wouldn't have paid much attention because I don't like a lot of, you know what I mean, kind of like the kind of, the horror music and then the quick, right. Panning over to something right. Like, yeah. You know what I mean, just like the random, like, whoa, what's going on?
The shrieking violence.
Yes, the randomness. But I think the other side of it too is I like the commentary, and the take for me, especially, the viewpoint of just taking another look at it, and especially from the vantage point of kind of flipping the script. And so having, even like, I know you're saying the friend being just kind of like, maybe over the top. But even him just like, look, I think they are stealing or abducting black people. These white people are abducting black people. Like, and then literally you have police officers like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that is so far-fetched, right? Like, this whole concept is so far-fetched and entertaining, right? And purely comical, when in actuality, that's the horror of it, which I think was funny to me as a black person. Is like, that's the comedy. The comedy is there is no feeling of like this could actually be someone or an individual or a group of people that could be in any type of danger. What is the absurdity of like there's white people in the suburbs taking folks? I will
body snatching them.
Slaves, but sex slaves.
Yeah, the fixation on that they were sex slaves, I thought was great.
Hysterical.
I mean, I thought that bit was really funny, but then it just got so far off track. And again, the closer you hew to reality, I think that's what makes Stephen King such a master of horror, is because oftentimes, with things like Misery, like it hews so close to reality that you could see it happening to you, and that's what makes it terrifying. And okay, sure, I don't think I'm going to be abducted by a bunch of white people and turned into a sex slave, but I think it got silly to me.
I thought what was interesting in particular, especially for friends who are in interracial relationships, and in particular talking with folks specifically about the dynamics of dealing with some of the cultural differences. It was a take on balancing between two different worlds. I was like, oh, so this is the shtick. So you're going to the city, you're picking up folks. The connection even between, which I think was the brother who got the original guy from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, so we're going and capturing folks.
How creepy was that song?
That
song was creepy.
Yeah, that was great, but I felt like the brother was in a different movie entirely.
You did.
He had a weird accent compared to the whole rest of the family. I was like, why did he have a different accent? Like,
he was on a whole different.
I was like,
he was seriously on some other ish. He was committed to a whole different level.
Yeah, and I was just like, this is awkward because it's pulling me out again. It's like it's taking me out of like being really into the scariness of the movie because I'm like, what is going on with this dude?
Brother, man?
Did you feel like there's overlaying of different movies happening within one movie? Like you were just kind of like, what is he in? What is all going on? Type of thing.
Yeah, it was awkward. the bingo scene, I was like, I had to ask my friends when we came out, I was like, what was that bingo card scene? I didn't get it.
Was that an auction?
It was an auction.
So it was a silent auction?
If you missed it, it was an auction. I did not get it.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't.
Yeah.
It flew right over my head.
Which is what made, like, that scene is happening coincidentally with the conversation at the lake. Mm-hmm. Which is what kept me scared during that.
Well, maybe that's where the pacing lost me because I didn't have a clue what was going on.
They were selling him.
Yes. They were selling him, but then then I later was like, the reason I didn't have a clue what was going on is because it seemed like he was so specifically picked out for that person. Yeah. So then why were they auctioning? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it did crack me up that the blind guy could see his fingers. You see how many fingers he was holding up?
Yeah, good point.
I was like,
no, I thought the guy behind him, his handler was doing something to him.
Maybe.
I think was kind of like, I think he was kind of like, higher or tapping him or something, to be fair.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I'll take that back.
Yeah, I mean, it went over my head. And I honestly, like, I don't know if this is, the girlfriend, I really wanted to believe in their relationship. They had great chemistry, and I really wanted
Rose.
I really wanted her to be like, what the hell, and have no idea that it was her family.
I
know.
I
was like, boo, no, Rose, no, find those keys, get those keys.
Exactly.
I mean, I long past the point where I should have realized that she was in on it. I was
even after all the pictures, right? It's like, well, maybe that's just a coincidence.
Well, no, I didn't think it was a coincidence. I thought she was equally brainwashed, and they made her forget about all those past relationships.
So you were trying to pull for her as well.
Yeah, I
wanted.
I thought they sold us on the relationship really well. And
that was to me that was also the scary part, right? Like I thought on a deeper level, like that's some deep-ish, like straight up, like that's horror, right?
Yeah.
Like not the quick panning and running around. Like it was just like like the moment that kind of because even when it was transpired, like things were kind of moving, I was like, I have a feeling. You know what I mean? Like, how you have a feeling, but you're like, no. Let me suppress that. Let me push that back.
Yeah, that was me. I was like, denial.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm being,
Which is what you would do, right, in that situation. Like, where she's supportive enough that when she gaslights him, it's that much more disturbing.
Very much.
I mean, the whole scene where, she's rooting through her bag, looking for the keys, and he's like, Rose, keys, Rose. Like, that was my favorite scene in the movie. Like the tension was high and I was freaking out. Yeah. And then she just and Allison Williams, credit to her, did a great job where she just pauses and she's like, I can't show you.
I know.
Like, I can't give you the keys.
In that moment you're like, I was hoping that there was audience reaction.
Yeah. Oh, my audience reaction was throughout. My audience was so into it.
Yeah. Now, I will ask this. So I would agree with you that there was a slow pace. But then at some point, it seemed like the pace picked up to a point that I couldn't follow. So I would say that at some point I missed some of the connections between the transferring of people and you know what I mean? So then it seemed like I was like, so what are we doing? Like I felt like we moved slightly slower, you know what I mean, with the actual storyline. And then I don't know if I kind of got lost a little bit. So I even got a little lost with the switching of folks. Because I would agree with you. Like, if the guy knew that he wanted the eyes, right? Like, so it's video. Like, it's not about being black. It's just about, I just want your eyes. That's all I want.
I loved that because it brought up to me, like, does it matter if you're racist or not? You're treating someone like trash. And he just really wanted him to know. He's like, I could care less what color you are, but I still want to body snatch you.
Yeah.
It's like he thought he was so much better than everybody else. That character, the blind art dealer, thought he was so much better than everyone else there. It's like, well, you bought somebody.
And I thought that was also a very, a poignant commentary. So, let there be random white people disappearing. Just disappearing. We are talking about a population for which it's like, even like the TSA guy, this is my homie from Brooklyn. That's not him. Somebody bought him and they got him. And that's not how we, so it's just this, I think that's also the commentary, which is this is purely, you know what I mean, a population for which we can, you know what I mean, is maybe, I don't know, slightly invisible or not seen or okay to disappear and fall
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought this was like part of them body snatching black people was because they didn't mind as much because they were black, right? They're less than people, so it was okay. But I did think, to your point about the confusion, you know, again, something that was mishandled in the movie was that who teaches their own mother like a servant in their house, right? Like they, you know, if their bodies, if those people were supposed to be the grandparents, they were somebody's parents, either the husbands or the wives.
Yeah. Well, I am pretty sure it was the father's parents, and I did think it was funny that the mother, Missy, spoke so, like, acerbically towards her mother-in-law. Like, she was like, really, Georgina? Why don't you go take a nap? Like, she was so mean to her, and it's because it was her mother-in-law.
And we talked about that. I talked about that too, wondering like why that was, and I didn't know if
she hates her. She literally hates her.
But we were wondering like, so is it because having black people amongst you, like their family, would be weird? So it seems more appropriate to then have servants. Because for instance, you will recall when the gentleman who's mowing the lawn, but I thought it was hilarious because it's like the lawn doesn't need to be mowed. So why
was he running at night?
Yeah, or chopping wood.
Do old people do that?
No.
They do.
Which is part of the spookiness.
So with the Dre character, you're like, you see him like adopt the habits of an old person, but with there's theoretically the grandparents, no one treats them as such or interacts with them that way. So I'm like,
it didn't really all kind of sync.
So it didn't come. So it would be confusing because you're like, this didn't come together.
It didn't. And then I got even more confused when the whole snapping of the picture, which then was explained to me, and you guys can correct me, was that interrupted the hypnosis. Is that what happened? Because even the main character was like, yo, when he became angry, I saw him. Mm-hmm. That is the guy I remember.
Right.
And so then when you know what I mean, it was then the mother who has to like, he's better now. Mm-hmm. So is that correct? Like they're in.
I say so. Yeah.
Okay, because that was the part I was just like, what's happening? So it's the brain that has been transferred to the body, and the soul is like. Did I miss that part? Like,
I think if you think too hard,
then it's not gonna work.
The medicine aspect of it.
Well, so they're like latent bits of themselves still left in the brain that come through when the picture is snapped. So yes, they kind of come out of the sinking place that she puts them in. Yeah.
Okay.
That was
right.
Yeah.
Now you're in a sunken place.
Yeah. So Katherine Keener, good, creepy, great job on her part.
As ever. Yeah.
She was good. I mean, the performances were all great, except for the brother, because like I said, the brother was just in a different movie. Like I just thought he was out of the step with.
I did love his scene where he comes out, the protagonist with the lacrosse stick.
Yeah, I did too.
Takes a swipe and then immediately steps back and goes, I didn't do anything.
I just like that it was a lacrosse stick.
Yes,
I was like, is there an Edward Griever symbol of white privilege than a lacrosse stick? I don't think so. Like, culturally appropriated from Native Americans. And it's now the ultimate whiteboard sport. Like,
that moment was perfect in every way.
Yeah. And then, so the one thing, I don't know where I picked this up, but it was some forum somewhere, people talking about lighting and the difficulty oftentimes of lighting Black actors. And, we came out of the movie and one of the people I saw it with was like, it was so nice to be able to see him. Because, like, sometimes it's dark and it's like you can't see the Black people that well.
You did see him really well.
Yeah, and I was looking to see in the movie if he was sweating a lot, which he was a little bit, because someone had made that point on a forum and somebody else had commented back. If you watch, I think it's In the Heat of the Night, they're like, Sidney Poitier is not sweating bullets just because it's the South and it's hot. He has like massive Klieg lights on him through the whole filming to keep him evenly lit with the white actors. And I was like, so I was kind of looking to see if the actor was sweating a lot because he probably had a lot of lights on him.
I felt like I noticed sweat when there was like kind of like more of the action scene. So I noticed it at the end. You
see it a little bit when he's lying in bed. He has some beads.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, if that's it's technique, like if that's what you have to do to keep people evenly lit. But I thought that was funny because I was actually looking. If you knew to look for it. Like it blended pretty evenly in. So anything else on the sort of technical aspects of the movie?
I loved the font of the credits matching with the cheesy video at the end. Because at the beginning I was like, that font is ridiculous. And then it turned out to be taken from the sort of not promotional video, but the sort of orientation video.
Yeah. I liked the double message of Get Out. Yeah. That really it's you know, the character saying like you've got to leave, you're in danger, not, you know, the and then the message of the movie of like he's not welcome there.
Right.
So it was a great title, great theme. So the movie kind of covers sort of two themes of you know, white people's defense of their own racism, I guess, white fragility. One is this sort of superhero fetishizing of black people, right? Like oh no, you're better off. Your genetics or what does he say?
He said something
with your genetic makeup, you could become a professional UFC fighter. You could be a beast.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's like, I'm a beast. Yeah, totally. And like the whole Jesse Owens story.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, like the grandfather never did get over it, did he? Like from that day on, he went, I must one day, you know, inhabit a black body because they are so superior to me. Which is just, and he was thinking about how like great he was that he recognized that in front of Hitler when really you're just as bad as Hitler if you fetishize a race for being physically superior. That's what Hitler did. So don't pat yourself on the back for thinking that like, and it's just Jesse Owens. It's not, you don't attribute to every single person in that demographic. It was just Jesse Owens is a really talented athlete.
Yeah.
You know?
Did that resonate with you, the sort of fetishizing in some ways?
No, that did not connect with me as much as kind of some of the other pieces. I think what stood out to me was a little bit more of kind of the backlash that I heard a lot of other folks finding the movie racist. They found it offensive. They were
in what way?
They just really a lot of white viewers were really kind of taken aback. Just, you know what I mean?
Because they've said to somebody, I would have voted for Obama for a third time, and now they're like, oh snap, that was me. Like
I think it was a little bit more. I mean, just, you know what I mean, the take on, you know what I mean, snatching black folks. I mean, you know what I mean? Just the take on it was like, oh, this is reverse racism. So that was a little bit more.
Reverse racism.
To describe your experience, like
So, but I
movies that matter strongly states the stance that reverse racism does not exist.
But I think it's about,
and Japanese people were not exempt.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Tamayaki or whatever.
Oh, I know. Good job on the model minority front too on that one too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, but you guys raise a good point. I mean, it was, you know, that was really awkward at the dinner table when the brother was like, oh, so, you know, what do you do? And I was just like, oh, that is very awkward. But you know what I mean? The connections certainly do resonate, but that wasn't necessarily what stood out to me.
The only part it resonated for me actually was the whole like, is he better in bed thing?
Or when the woman was like filling on him, I was just like,
that was
that. I just felt like this sort of superhero black person thing. It felt dated. Like it didn't feel. I've never heard someone say that like in my lifetime or experience. Like it didn't land for me where the like, you know, she's one step away from asking like how large he is. Like I was like that I still feel like is is very much a part of our culture in terms of stereotyping black men, at least.
I do think it comes up in sports a lot, where apparently there was a study where sportscasters would, when they were commenting on black athletes, they would say a lot
refer to animals. Or
a little, along those lines. Like they would always more refer to their sort of raw talent or physical, like inherent ability. Mm-hmm. And with the white athletes, they would refer more to like their leadership skills or like how well trained they were, or like I don't
watch a lot of strategy. Sports. So maybe that's why it doesn't resonate with me. That could be it.
Yeah. And it was interesting to me because some of those scenes where it was like, ooh, let me fill you up. Let me check you out. I actually, for me, just reminded me a lot more of kind of like slavery auctions. That's what really resonated.
Oh, fair enough.
Like, it was less about kind of like, wow, superiority, and more of like...
checking the merchandise.
Oh, yeah. That was exactly what it was. And then when we turned into the bingo or the auction or whatever that turned into, was like, this is modern day. This is, hey, there he goes. Check him out. Like, it was just like, so that's what it.
Of the party, so creepy.
Well, when they all drove up in the black, like town cars and stuff, I was like, wow, this seems like a funeral.
It did.
I was like, what are they all in the FBI? Like that's like a cop car.
Yeah, it was
the like black SUV.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed.
And his photo, like his portrait at the auction, looks like a photo at a funeral.
Oh, it does. That I did notice.
I did too.
Good. Good point. I didn't think of the car thing that way.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah.
The last thing I want to ask, only because, and I might be overthinking this, who do you think left the door open to the box? Like, what was that about? That was just purely
been a plot hole. That could have just been, and it may be on purpose. Mm-hmm. It may be on purpose that like.
I mean, it could have been Georgina's real person sneaking through, right?
I like that idea.
And that's what we were thinking too. Like a little of that going. And that's what we're talking about. Like that little bit of the soul or.
Like in a moment of clarity. Mm-hmm. Trying to leave him. And like the box was so like obviously placed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So this was something I saw a couple comment threads on. And I definitely had a very fixed view of this in the movie too. Back to the sexuality thing. So when the girlfriend at the end is like, what does she Google search like NCAA athletes or whatever? And everyone was like, was she picking out the next guy? I'm like, that's not what I thought she was doing. Like, cause like, how is she going to find these guys? Like, that's unrealistic. I was like, I thought she just, that was what she liked. Like, I definitely thought it was a porn search. Like, I didn't. It was her like selecting her next victim. Like, so I don't know. Selecting her. I was like, I totally was like, yeah.
Well, I was thinking because if we're doing the NCAA or whatever,
maybe she's kicking up her game.
Yeah. But then March Madness. I mean, it was released.
Like, how is she gonna find these guys?
Hey, please, go on. Like, don't underestimate. She goes to the city. She was like, why not?
I just thought that's what she was doing in her private time.
With her Fruit Loops and her milk. Yeah. Yes.
I love that giant glass of milk.
It was fabulous.
And she
what a straw.
A black straw.
I love the straw.
It was a black straw.
Oh.
That's what she's more comfortable with.
I'm saying.
Stick with what you know.
That's not an accident. I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't. It was super intentional. That
what was even spookier was like, get her, Grandpa. I was like, see, that was crazy. That was crazy. That was.
I mean, from the social message perspective, like, I don't know, it didn't really land that well for me.
What part? What aspect of it?
So this is basically a retread of the Stepford Wives, right? And the idea behind the Stepford Wives, like the allegory is that the men are making the women into this docile thing that they have always wanted women really to be. They don't want them to be independent and they don't want them to be interesting. And the whole idea of converting your old relatives into black people, I'm like, it doesn't really mesh thematically to me.
So when I discussed this with my sister, if she's listening, shout out, Meg. She brought up a good point to me that, because I was just, describing I basically acted out this movie for her, scene for scene. And she said, she kind of went, so basically what they're doing is they're taking all the aspects about Black people, i.e. Black culture, that they like, that they want, and exploiting that, and then, but doing it in such like a heartless way as to not even acknowledge their humanity, which is a criticism that white culture gets a lot, where we're like, we'll take their hip hop and we'll take their, whatever.
But they didn't, and that's where I think the movie just didn't land for me.
Well, but they take their physicality, they take their, in this case, their youth. They're just taking what they need, right? His eyes, right?
I agree with you. I think, but all the coded messaging is like, you be a beast in UFC. Like, I think that for me, that would have resonated, all of that coded stuff would have resonated a lot more if they had played the like, oh, you're just so much cooler, or like the photographer is like, oh, you see things in such a gritty urban way. Do you know what I mean? Like, all of that dog whistling about how much more cool Black people are than white people, and like taking the hipster kid from Brooklyn and making him dress like an old man, like they lost all of it. To me, it just didn't. That's what I would have liked to have seen.
Well, they certainly failed, right?
Yeah.
Hint, but I think that's also the comedy part too. Which, you know what I mean? Look at him, and well, he's not missing anymore, and that doesn't look like. Yeah, he looks like he's white. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, so I think that's but I do get what you're saying, which is kind of playing that other side up. But I also think, you know what I mean? They aren't going to get some, you know what I mean, broke down, you know what I mean, unable individual. They're going to get some spry young folks, or, you know what I mean, folks where they can.
Right, but if your message is like, why would any white person want to be a Black person? I feel like the answer would be yes, A, maybe to be good at sports, but B, to be cool, right? And I mean, I guess in my experience, when white people have sort of imitated Black culture, it's for that reason. Like,
and
I think it's
how
cooler.
Cool do they look?
Like,
do they succeed?
They look
generally?
like Vanilla Ice.
They look like Vanilla Ice, right? They look like a young Black man in an old white man's clothes.
Yeah. So,
but maybe in this, and where were they supposed to be? Just upstate New York. Right. So maybe just being Black is cool enough.
That's right. Yeah. Maybe that's all.
Maybe
you need.
his hat
in Connecticut. That's it. That's all you got.
That's all you need. Then he did look like the Brooklyn guy had a tattoo. I saw a little tattoo on him. So maybe that's the cool factor.
I did love when they do punt the question to when they ask the protagonist.
Yeah, what does it mean to be Black?
Right. Has it been better for you or worse? And
I don't know.
He's like, why don't you take this Hayworth, or I don't know, whatever the old man's name was. And at first when he says, well, for me it's been very good, I thought, oh, that's ridiculous. Like, how would he know? But then when you find out what's actually happening, it's probably true. Like, he's only been Black for 6 months and it's probably been great.
No problems here.
It's like, I loved it so far. I'll let you know.
Yes. Thumbs up.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you, again, we talked about this with Hidden Figures with you, Sari. Did the conversations resonate? I've heard a lot. Yes. Again, on the comment threads, I heard a lot of people like, I've been to that party.
Yeah, no, I mean, the conversation certainly did. The randomness, the whole Obama, I would have voted for.
I get that one a lot.
All the time.
What's the, most annoying thing you've ever gotten?
It all depends. I mean, it depends if I'm in Seattle, which is where I'm from originally. If it depends on, you know what I mean, if I'm here in the district. But you know what I mean? I think DC more political, and then back in Seattle, it's more kind of trying to be, you know what I mean, saying the right thing a little, you know what I mean? But it depends on the crowd. It's always random, but no, but anytime it's just like, even the question of like, so how's the Black experience? Like, anytime you have to speak for the whole entire race, it's like, really? It's like, today it's this way. You know what I mean? Like, it's always entertaining, to say the least, but what you gonna do?
Yeah, I'm probably guilty of that. I'll own to that. Not to like the Black experience, but even on this podcast, I'm like, well, you're the token Black person. So
yeah.
Tell us what it's like.
Yes, darling. Yeah.
Like, we presume you did consult with the entire Black community.
I did. Okay, all of that from last night's 8:15 showing to today.
Okay,
great. I did.
Yeah.
But I certainly will give shout outs. I think I would agree with you, like the whole Rotten Tomatoes, what is it, a perfect score.
Yep.
I don't know enough about what a perfect score is. I will not say I'm a huge kind of movie buff. I will cop to that I haven't seen Stepford Wives, so I can't make the connection. But it has me having conversations with folks who have watched the movie, and really different types of conversations. So there's certain scenes that really resonated with folks in really different ways. And so I really liked that piece. And in particular for me, because I didn't know that about, because did Peele, is he the writer, director?
He's the writer and director.
Yep. So I know him more as a comedian. So I didn't know he was a huge,
huge horror buff.
So, but one of the things that I think that a lot of times comedians don't get enough credit for is that I also think that they're incredibly smart and incredibly deep and in many ways incredibly dark, right? And I think like the movie really, I feel, reflects a lot of that, like these small little nuances that I've enjoyed kind of just engaging with folks on kind of deeper conversations about what it meant to them, what they got from it. So a friend of mine, and I have to give a shout out to Emily, but she's like, we should go back and now watch everybody's reaction. Because that I think is also really interesting, how people react to, what they're seeing.
Well, that's the question for me. And, again, in the whole, you're definitely, you are in Chris's shoes the whole movie, like, which is great. Like, to force audiences to see everything through his eyes is great. But I do wonder how much any of this penetrates in the white community. Like, did people see themselves, or they're like, no, I'm not that bad? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe you'll catch yourself the next time you talk about Obama to a black
People's faces were cringing.
Were they?
They were cringing.
But they were like, that person's bad, but I'm not that. I don't know.
And I think it was interesting too. I don't know your audience, but I would say one of the things that even Emily brought up, which is like, so the audience, the diversity of the audience, I would certainly say that the audience for when I went was predominantly Black. And so when there were things that were transpiring and more kind of at the end, so when there was kind of like the main character is trying to get the hell out, right?
Yeah.
And there is this kind of like, I've got to beat some people down to get out. There is this roar of the crowd, which is like, yeah, like, so so even, my white friend Emily is like, look, that's a different way of experiencing a movie, right? So we're not traditionally watching a Black person who is now seen as the person who is maybe not necessarily the hero, but the person who is now the victim, who now has to break out of the scenario where who is coming after him, and there's white people. So I'm like, oh, I never thought about, like, so in my mind, you hear people like, stop, Autumn, stop, like, you know what I mean? I think I was even like,
I think it is really, and I don't want us to go I don't want us to stop this episode without like pointing out that the horror genre is absolutely integral to the message of the movie, which is all the tropes of Black people in horror movies, right? They're always the first to go. I mean, that's such an inside, not even an inside joke. It's just such a joke now in pop culture, is that the Black guy always goes first. And in this case, it's like, no, like the Black guy he's the almost the quote unquote last woman of this particular horror movie. It's not just a big boob white girl this time. It is the Black guy, and he is the last one standing. And even just the choice of the horror genre, right? Normally, horror movies they always use these crazy situations that would never happen, or maybe they happened once in Texas. But like the whole message, using all the the tried and true like tropes of the horror genre, it basically gets that message home that for a lot of people, for a lot of Black people in this country, it is scary to be here.
Yeah.
It is their whole life is a horror movie where they are just walking around thinking, is that guy going to kill me?
Yeah.
I can't walk around at night. If a car drives past me, I maybe need to duck somewhere because I don't know what's going to happen to me. And that is something that I think white people we don't get. Like, we're never, I mean, some women might understand that, but for the most part, we aren't scared all the time that if a cop pulls us over, we may not walk away from this. And that's so important. And I think I love your reading of like Jordan Peele as a comedian that can be, he uses his comedian background to bring his smarts and his darkness because he can get at that. Yeah. And that's what he does with this movie.
No, I applaud that point, actually. You're completely right, Stacey. And I think that's something that is underappreciated, which is that, many people have told me, like, I have a coworker who told me, like, in a Brooks Brothers suit, carrying a briefcase, walking home, sun still out, from the metro, he had a woman, like, cross the street in his suburban neighborhood, when she saw him coming. So it's like, how much time and attention that white people spend being afraid of black people, how much they don't consider how afraid of white people black people. Correct. Because it's like, we're the one, we're the ones shooting kids in the street, to be honest. Like,
swinging a lacrosse stick and saying, I didn't do anything.
Yeah. We're the George Zimmermans of the world, right? Yeah. I mean, so I agree with you. Like, just being able to put the audience in the shoes of somebody who's like, nothing's happened yet. I'm just in kind of a weird, creepy situation, and I'm completely terrified because I'm so fish out of water. So I agree. I think that is something that the movie really does a good job with. Yeah.
So I would easily say that, out of all of it, I find myself more kind of drawn to the conversations after the movie. Mm-hmm. I do see some, shortcomings within, but I think some of the dialogue, I mean, I know you weren't necessarily a fan of the TSA guy, but I loved Rose. I'm confused. What's happening? Like when he said, hold on. Oh, I mean, that is like pure. I got you. Like, it's just like, I loved all of that. I loved all of the, like, all of that. Like, all of the, like, huh? What do you mean? You like, I mean, it's just like all of that. I just think, and especially just all of the,
what does Rose mean? What does Rose mean? Like, what does she represent? Yeah. I've seen her listed as kind of like, at least in the beginning, she's the ideal white girlfriend, but she gaslights him so much. So is she like that white friend that's like,
that you can't really trust.
Right. She on the front is supportive, but
I think Rose has many layers to her. I think Rose is a very multifaceted, powerful. I mean, I was like, Rose was something else. Mm-hmm. And I think from a perspective of like, I mean, you know what I mean? I was sitting with my friend and I just kind of looked at her and she's just like, oh God. I was, you know what I mean? Like, Rose is, you know what I mean? And my friend even said, she was just like, look, I can't even look at a black man for the next week. This movie has me like, I need to take a hiatus. And I was like, I hear you. But Rose to me represents so many different, I think, you know what I mean, traits that I think are very common. And we could say all of those things can be common of anybody, but I think there's a level of privilege, right? That Rose gets to be in many ways. What's happening? You know what I mean? Like, there's several other people of color who can, do those things, but to be able to...
So selectively naive.
Mm-hmm, girl, of course. I mean, even when TSA guy was able to be like, oh, hold on, I'm over... You know what I mean? You try to play. So those small nuances. I know we're, wrapping up, but I think there was just so many little gems that I think Peele did a fabulous job with.
I agree. And I think, again, I mean, part of why I read the whole computers, the NCA scene as Rose, like, looking for porn was, like, I do think that she had those layers of, like, she is attracted, she's able to sleep with this guy. I mean, they've been dating for that long, and so I do think that she's a great character because she's complex. She's strong, she's manipulative, so she's sort of like this white person who's been raised a certain way, but maybe pieces of respect peek out.
Mm-hmm. I certainly would say, without a doubt, I was totally intrigued by Rose.
Yeah, I mean, but
I wanted to know more about Rose.
Me too.
And I thought it was really powerful even at the end. So, like, you know what I mean? The whole kind of...
The climactic
and then kind of just letting her, you know, like, all right. Because I really do feel like the main character, you know, her boyfriend or ex at that point, I think there was love. And it was just kind of like, you know, what? And I'm trying to figure out, I did get lost on how many days had transpired. So it's like, is this a weekend? Is this a week? How long has my man been missing at this point? But it's just like, I really wanted to know more, like, and that's the part that really interested me more. So less even about like the horror and all of that, but kind of a little bit more about, which was interesting. So
I again, and as sort of untied thread at the end of the movie of Rose, she represents a certain complexity, or you know, the white girl's always going to get you in the end. I don't know.
Or the white girl's got a trump card. Maybe it's like that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and when in doubt, you know, you can always
play that card.
You know, or the house wins or something, you know.
Yeah, the house always wins.
I do want to thank Jordan Peele for kind of giving us white chicks a clue on how to really earn points with a cute black guy, is to white knight it.
Yeah.
He's being harassed by a cop.
Yeah.
Is this cop bothering you?
Yeah, no. Let me take care of that for you, honey.
Right.
We're good, Stacy.
Uh-huh.
Important life lesson for us.
Exactly.
So, we've sort of danced around the topic, but this is one where, social impact score, or the movies that matter impact score, I think, curious to hear your thoughts. So, re-explaining the scale. 1 is, oh my gosh, this is the worst movie in the world. The social message was terrible, and it was also a crappy movie. And then 10 was movies and, you know, certain topics as we know it have changed forever. So, Sari. What would be your impact score?
My impact score. But I'd give it a 9. I'd give it a 9 only for the simple fact that you know, I certainly am loving all of the conversations I'm still having. B, I want to have more conversations with people, and I'm telling them they have to go see it in order for me to have those conversations. You know, I think there's, a lot to unpackage.
Okay.
You know, from various different standpoints.
Stacy?
I have been thinking an 8. A lot of people saw it. It sold really well. I think Sari mentioned before we recorded that you had trouble even getting in because it was sold out.
Sold out, man.
It's super entertaining. It's, you know, it really gets its messages across in a smart, entertaining way. You know, and when I come up with these numbers, I try to think, like, what's a 10? Is a 10 like a Schindler's List, like a Brokeback Mountain? Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what a 10 is for me, but I'm going to say 8.
Yeah, I agree. I would have given it the 9 if I'd liked the movie a little bit better than I did. But I have to say, you know, everybody and their brother knows that I do this podcast. And so people are always like, oh, what's your next movie? Like, what are you going to see? And before it even opened, when I said I was going to see Get Out, everybody was like, oh, I want to see that. Like, so people already knew about the movie. I think the 100% on Rotten Tomatoes was definitely a reflection of how much people wanted to like this movie.
Yeah.
Like, the support of it has been overwhelming. Like, everyone's heard of it. It's creating a lot of chatter. Like, I don't know how much more impact you can ask a movie to have. Like, I think the conversations are great. It certainly made me think about myself and, you know, how I interact and what I do. So yeah, I would give the 8. I wouldn't be surprised if this lit a little fire under, you know, the horror movie genre and got different kinds of protagonists and different things happening too. So in terms of like its impact on movies, again, not an expert on the horror movie genre. So feel free to comment on our website that I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but I do think movies will be a little bit different after this.
Yeah, and
Blumhouse Productions is on fire. They are making money.
Yeah.
And this opening weekend was killing it.
Right.
I mean, in the way it ended, I don't know if we talk about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did some type of sequel or something else.
I mean, well, and you have Hidden Figures and now Get Out coming back to back, big money makers with black protagonists. So, that in context of a few things, I'm hoping to see. And Moonlight gets the Oscar. Yeah. Like I'm hoping to see.
This is good times.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Recommendations for the week? Anybody got anything they want to plug or support?
Well, it's Tuesday night. If you haven't heard about it, this is us. Get on the bandwagon.
I would like to recommend, if you like this movie, I'd say go back and watch Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Okay. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Movies That Matter. If you did, please check out our website, www.moviesthatmatterpodcast.com. We're super social. We're on the Facebook. We're on the Twitter. So we're everywhere. Come talk to us. And remember, movies matter.
And so do you.
We'll see you next time. Hello, Movies That Matter fans. If you leave us a review in iTunes and include a recommendation, we'll declare you our Over-Analyst of the Week and read your recommendation in the next episode at the end of the show. iTunes reviews really help us out and make it possible for new listeners to discover the podcast. It only takes a minute and it's totally free to do. So thanks for your help.